Hi everyone. Today I want to talk about the IHE Handbooks. In class we've talked a little bit about RFPs, equipment purchases, and system upgrades. The IHE Handbooks give you some great general guidelines on how to do these things. There are two handbooks for radiology. One is called the Radiology Handbook, which we will talk about today, and the other is the Mammography Handbook, which we will cover later. The handbooks are divided into chapters called scenarios. The principles outlined in each scenario can be applied to any systems acquisition and employment project that involves integration of systems with IHE-defined transactions. Each scenario includes advice for those selecting and purchasing new systems and for the technical staff who will handle the installation and configuration of the new system. For mammography, details as to how to put together the RFPs, how to interpret vendor responses to your RFPs, how to select the right product for your goals environment are explained. Each chapter goes over the configuration and implementation process of digital mammography equipment. Possible workflow scenarios are explained. Details on how to test the main profile requirements that may apply to each piece of equipment are provided together with information on potential installation and legacy issues. The three scenarios in the Radiology Handbook are buying a modality, upgrading a risk system, and installing an integrated PACS system. Let's dive into buying a modality. Buying a new modality can be a daunting task. There is substantial financial investment in new radiology equipment, and you really don't want to screw this up. The process can be broken down into two parts: what to do before you get the modality and what to do when it gets installed. The first part of the scenario is called the planning and purchase process. It's broken down into the sections listed above. The planning and purchasing process is intended for administrators who make purchasing decisions. This section lists organizational goals to consider when specifying requirements for a modality system, how to select the IHE Integration Profile that will address those goals, and how to clearly state IHE requirements in your request for proposal and how to interpret the vendor responses. A list of goals an institution might have in acquiring a new modality system is maybe they want to reduce errors and enhance patient care. This would be addressed by the SWF profile. They might want to improve throughput for that modality. This would be addressed by the SWF, CPI, and PGP profiles. I'm sure they want to improve image quality, and this would be addressed by the CPI and KIN profiles. There are just a few possible examples of organizational goals. Your RAD director or PACS manager will give you the goals that matter most to them. Note that some profiles include options that provide additional functionality. You may also decide to select. For example, there are a lot of functions in the SWF profile. They may provide additional benefits beyond the stated goals. Let me give you a list of the integration profiles relevant to the purchase of a modality and the functionality of each. SWF is the cornerstone of IHE integration for the acquisition process. It establishes a seamless flow of information that supports efficient patient care in a typical imaging encounter by specifying transactions that maintain the consistency of patient information from registration through ordering, scheduling, imaging acquisition, storage, and viewing. It's strongly recommended you start with this profile. CPI allows the technologist to set up initial presentation settings on the modality instead of requiring the radiologist to do it at the time of interpretation. PGP enables the modality to perform grouped procedures, for example, CT chest, abdomen, pelvis, without disrupting the reporting or billing chain. PDI enables creating DICOM-compliant image CDs on the modality. ED enables image measurements to be acquired with the modality and stored on the PACS. Acquisition modality is the key role played by a modality system. It defines how it sends images and receives modality work lists. So those are the profiles to consider when planning to purchase a new modality. Here are some sample statements you might want to put in your RFP. For each of the profiles, we've talked about how you want to have a corresponding statement to include that profile in your RFP. So you might put something in there like, the modality system shall support the IHE scheduled workflow integration profile as the acquisition modality and image display actors. In simple terms, don't waste your time sending an RFP to a vendor that doesn't have a product that supports the IHE profiles you want. Do some vendor research before you send out the RFPs so you only target vendors that have the level of integration you want in their products. Be sure to compare what you asked for in your RFP to what the vendor says they can do in their integration statement. Make sure they've addressed everything you have asked for. Don't rely on the salesman or technical engineer who says, yeah, we can do all that stuff. Make sure you get in writing in the IHE integration statement document. That'll save you a lot of headache in the long run. These sections are intended for the implementation team. They cover important clinical and IT considerations when deploying a modality system with IHE capabilities, including dealing with legacy issues when connecting a modality to systems that do not support IHE profiles. Reconciling cases in the unmatched study folder on the PACS, also called broken studies or anomalies depending on the PACS system language, is something the PACS admin does every day. Usually it's a first thing in the morning task. You might think the process for sending images to PACS is simple, and it should be. The tech chooses the correct information from the modality work list, does the scan, sends the images, the accession number matches the order. It should work perfectly every time. But it doesn't, and there's an unmatched study folder in every PACS system where studies that do not match to any order information in the PACS database stay until the PACS admin figures out who or where they belong. Like we talked about last night, a lot of those will be QC images. This section contains processes to test each of the profiles the modality came with. For example, here is its instructions to test the modality worklist function. Schedule a procedure through the hospital information system and review the modality worklist information on the modality using its worklist features. The expected outcome is verify that the patient demographics and the procedural information on the modality matches what was scheduled through the RIS. This section lists all the configuration steps for each profile. For example, one of the things you need to configure to make the SWF profile work is modality worklist. You need to configure the AE title, IP address, and port for your modality's DICOM modality worklist. This information may need to be shared with the RIS vendor if the RIS needs to be configured to provide your modality worklist. A legacy problem is one where you are connecting brand new technology to older information systems. If the older system does not support the full IHE profile, but does support the standards the profile is built on, like DICOM, you can still connect it. It's just a harder thing to do, and you'll have more issues to work through, and you'll have to develop your own test plan to make sure everything is working correctly. So that covers the first scenario in the Radiology Handbook, which is buying a modality. The handbook itself covers these topics in much greater detail than I did in these slides. It's really helpful to a new PACS admin trying to figure out how to do these tasks. This is getting a little long, so I'm going to break the other two scenarios into another screencast.